Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Digital Access Show. Last week we talked about the education system and we talked with Sally Meshel, and she was the support special needs teacher in New South Wales. And she talked about the fact that the education system is really set up well to handle lots of needs. However, families sometimes struggle with having a child with disability, and different things happen. And I think one of the things from today is I want people to never judge a family where there is at least one child with disability, because really you don't know what you don't know. And today's guest, who is going to pick up on that, his name is Andrew Leigh. And Andrew Leigh and his wife actually have 4 children. Andrew Leigh and his wife also have a company called the Helping Hands Community, based here in Brisbane. So I'd like to introduce you to Andrew. Thanks, Andrew, for coming on.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
Andrew, tell us a bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so obviously my name's Andrew. I run Helping Hands Community Services. Like you said, we're based in the Redlands, on the south side of Brisbane, and we're a very small organisation. We intend to stay that way. We're not for profit. We provide supports for people, mainly sales supports for independent living, but we also do community access, in-home support, personal care, that sort of things. We do some support coordination.
Yeah.
Some short-term accommodation, things like that. So all the hands-on kind of care.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. That's why we're here. But the reason why we're here, obviously, is the reason you have me here today, is because of Brandon, my 5th child. We started Helping Hands because we couldn't find good supports for Brandon. In fact, his last provider went through about 12 or 13 support workers trying to support. And the last one actually assaulted Brandon in the street.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and that was difficult to deal with, but we thought that justice would prevail. We had camera footage of the incident happening. We had an eyewitness account, and the guy admitted to it during questioning with police. So we thought, okay, that's that. And then next thing you know, the police officer stood in my lounge room and said, we can't prosecute because Brandon can't speak and he can't stand up in court and testify, even with the admission of the person who did it. So that person still works in disability today.
You're
Um,
kidding, aren't you?
no, still works in disability.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yes. So because of Brandon's lack of communication, he didn't get justice like other people would have. So that's the day we started Helping Hands, because we decided we need better supports.
Mm.
Um, so it was never an intention to start Helping Hands. It just happened out
Hmm.
of need, basically. And at the time, we only ever wanted to provide supports just to Brandon, and that was it.
Yeah.
As time goes on, we thought to ourselves, look, there are people out there like Brandon that probably need some good support. So why not just offer support to other people? And so we've grown organically. Like I say, we're very small,
Mm.
definitely. We don't do a lot of advertising. We've started doing a bit more recently. Someone recently told me we're doing a disjustice to the people around us by not putting ourselves out there.
Hmm.
Um, and that kind of hit close to home, because the whole reason we started was to help vulnerable people, and the fact that we could be helping more, I saw the point in that. So we have started doing more advertising lately, but our point is we don't want to grow and become a large organization and lose the reason why we exist.
Yeah.
So as I say, we started because of one person who needed quality support, and that's what we try and maintain. I can't I'll be honest with you, we can't say that we always hit that mark, because I don't think any organization ever does 100%. I'm sitting in an office. I do hands-on work, but while I'm sitting here, we have support workers out there working with people, and things happen, definitely 100% incidents happen. And for me, it's about how you deal with that when that happens. That's what we try and maintain is you know, good training and all that sort of stuff, but making sure that we deal with these things in the right way, unlike what happened with Brandon. So
Yeah. So Brandon's nonverbal.
yeah, number.
So as a parent, that must be very hard.
Definitely, definitely. It's hard because I know Brandon so well. I know what Brandon wants
Mm.
quite he does have ways of communicating, still limited compared to somebody who's verbal. But I can quite quickly pick up on what Brandon wants. Training staff in his methods of communication is a real barrier for him and for his support. Um, we have things in place to make that process easier. And there's always a staff turnover in any industry, but
Mm.
especially disability. And so having a process where new staff members can come in and learn Brandon's communication is pretty one of the top priorities because a lot of behaviors, he has PBSP, he has restricted practices, things like that. But a lot of behaviors come because of frustration of not being able to communicate what he wants, what he needs, things like that.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there. Even for me, when I can't read something, it is the most frustrating thing because you know that there's a way to do it, but
Yeah,
other people are not sometimes patient enough or just don't think outside the square to say, well, I can do it this way, but other people do it differently.
yeah, and that's it. And that's all it comes down to, isn't it? It's just a bit of common sense, a bit of patience, and trying to see things from another person's perspective, really.
Yeah. So what tools do you use? Well, what tools does Brandon use to communicate?
So Brennan has a little bit of PECS, the picture exchange communication system.
Can you
Um,
explain what that is for people? A lot of people won't be aware of it.
Yeah, definitely. So PEX is quite intricate and it's more intricate than the basic explanation I'll give you. But
Mm.
basically, images printed out, singular, laminated, and they use those pictures to communicate. Typically,
Hmm.
they'll pick one up and pass it to you, indicating that that object or that activity is what they want to do.
Hmm.
You can build on that, and people have say a strip of hard plastic with Velcro on it, and then they can put multiple ones together and build a sentence, and then give you the strip of plastic, which will then read a sentence to you.
Mm.
So it does grow with with a person's ability as they learn to communicate better. So yeah, but it's more than just that, but that's the basics of it.
So it enables Brandon to communicate
Yeah, definitely,
and
definitely.
effectively.
For Brandon, not so much. That's the one we're sort of working on at the minute because he has so many different methods of communication.
Yeah.
We're trying to focus on one. So Brandon has ASD level 3,
Yeah.
but he also has intellectual impairment as well.
Sorry,
Um,
what was that? A visual?
Intellectual impairment. Uh,
Intellectual, yes.
so the combination of the two makes it difficult for him to pick up things,
Hmm.
um, quickly. So for him to learn something, the process can take years in some
Yeah.
respects. Um, so, that's what we're focusing on at the minute. But he also has some sign language,
Yeah.
um, and he can actually facilitate as well. So facilitation is a method of communication that's still to this day sort of looked down upon in the communication world.
Hmm.
Effectively, a person has a, a QWERTY keyboard, and it can be on an iPad or it can be just a physical board, and the communication partner assists them by holding their hand, and as they type, the partner pulls back and they will type the letters.
Hmm.
Um, as they grow, the communication partner does less support, so they might touch their elbow or touch their shoulder, just so the person typing basically can feel that there's someone there supporting them, and eventually the idea is that they will then be able to do it themselves without the support. Um,
Mm.
the really cool thing about facilitation is that if a person is capable of doing it, they can basically write out anything in the world and tell you. Whereas, PEC's sign is limited to what they know, the signs they know, or the pictures they have available to them. Facilitation is really, really cool because Brandon, for instance, he doesn't do it often because it's really difficult to find people trained in it. But I remember one day I was asking Brandon what he wanted me to make him for dinner. And Brandon loves food. That's a big driving factor for Brandon is food. And he just kept saying no to me. No, no, no. And it's like a bit strange. He always wants food. So I say, what's wrong? Why don't you want any food? And he literally wrote out, I don't want you to make dinner for me. I want Laura, who's my wife, because she cooks better than you do.
So you got put in your place.
I did, yeah. But he didn't have the signs for that. He didn't have the pictures for that. So having the ability to facilitate is great for him because it gave him the ability to say something he otherwise would not be able to say at all.
So Laura cooked dinner and he was a happy boy.
Yes, that's right. That's happened.
Yeah.
But facilitation's a method of communication that's a bit up in the air. There's definitely room for abuse. There's cases in America where people have said that someone's facilitated something that they haven't. So it's a method that's not used very often. So Brandon has several methods of communication. He does sign language as well. However, we had a speech therapist once tell us that they've never met someone with Brandon's types of disability knows so much sign language, which was great. But at least half of Brandon's are made up, specific to him. And then there's a portion that's Auslan and a portion that's Makaton. He's gone through his life with different people teaching him different signs, and it is what it is. But he knows quite a lot, which is great. But he does get lazy sometimes, so it kind of slips. So that's a bit of a barrier too. But then he also has a method of communication which a lot of people don't realize. Taking you by the hand and leading you to something, or pointing at something, or picking something up. He doesn't have his sensory profile indicates that he doesn't necessarily know how hard he's grasping you, when he's holding you, or hugging you, he's bear hugging you. He doesn't pick up that maybe a bit too tight for someone. So some staff over the years have had it in their head that he's hurting them on purpose and all that sort of stuff. So at the end of the day, it's like you say, perception is a big thing. He trying to communicate to them that he wants something, he needs something, and they're so focused on that he's trying to hurt them, which isn't the case at all. That I can't see that he's leading them to something, and then because that he's not gotten that, it's led to behaviors, and that reinforces the staff that he's trying to hurt them and things like that. So communication is a huge thing.
How does he communicate with the rest of your kids? Because Brandon's not your only kid.
So basically through me, Brandon moved into his still support when my oldest must have been about 3.5, just as my middle daughter was coming along. His house is their second home. But because my middle one is just turned 3 recently, she's still quite young to grasp that sort of stuff. So he uses me to communicate with them. And my oldest daughter just knows Brandy. She doesn't stop she has ASD level 1 herself and ADHD. So communication is a bit of a barrier to her as well, especially things like body language and things like that. So sometimes she doesn't stop to listen to other people who are verbal, let alone someone like Brandon who's not. They have their own ways. For instance, Brandon does exercise physiology, has medicine ball. and my daughter Amelia will come in and start playing with him, and he says finish, he doesn't want to play anymore. But like she'll just keep throwing the ball and
Yep.
keep throwing it back with gritted teeth.
Mm-hmm.
He'll grown a little bit, but he'll keep doing it. So, like you say, it is typically that sibling relationship of
Oh,
you really
isn't
love
that a
you.
typical older brother?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And little kid, but I still love you,
Mm.
very patient with them. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I actually don't know who I feel sorry more for, Brandon for having younger sisters, and a few of them, or the younger sisters having an older brother like Brandon, because one of the things you often find with older brothers, they become quite protective.
Oh, definitely. 100%. He's very protective of them.
Mm.
But, it's really cool watching the relationships form and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I said, has a bit of a different relationship with him because she lived with him for 3.5 years, whereas the
Yeah.
other ones, they go to his house a lot, but he wasn't around all the time like he
Yeah.
was with. So yeah,
And for people listening, Brandon's what, 20 or 21 now, isn't he? He's older.
yeah,
Yeah.
25 now.
25, yeah. And with all of this and with learning with Brandon, what have you learned about communication? What have you and Laura learned?
Um, Look, I think communication's the most frustrating thing there is. And I think it's also the key to everything in life. It's the key to good support. And it's not just the spoken word or the written word, there's so many things that a lot of the time people fail to see. And I think if you're not patient with a person, you can really miss what's going on. Whether it's subcontext to something they're not saying, or whether it's the things they are saying, or signing, or
Mm.
text, whatever it is. I think understanding another person is definitely um, key to any relationship, or good support, or anything in life, really. So
Yeah.
that has taught us a lot. Um,
For pe-
Definitely.
how do you train the support workers to communicate with Brandon and with other people? Because as we've talked about, everyone has their own communication styles. What's the trick to getting the people that work for you to understand that?
So with any of our participants, we do at least one buddy shift with new staff anyway.
Hmm.
With someone like Brendan who has more intensive supports, we usually do between 2 and 3 buddy shifts. So,
Hmm.
a lot of things are um it's it's sometimes you can read as much as about a person as you can, but until you're there with them seeing these things happen, it's really quite difficult to explain everything about a person to somebody. So buddy shifts are really, really important because, we have sign books where it literally has pages of Brandon's signs, which is me reenacting them. So there's a
Hmm.
description of what they are, there's a
Yeah.
photo. So before they even meet him, they get to read that.
Hmm.
So little bit of basic understanding beforehand. Um, so there's training with that. But then, as I say, Brandon develops new signs all the time, just out of
Yeah.
necessity,
Yeah.
himself. So on the buddy shifts is when we really try and get people to understand him well, and we are constantly in contact with support workers. So we get people all the time sending us videos saying, "What's Brandon trying to tell me? What's this? What is that?" And sometimes I don't even know. So yes, due to context, and
Yeah.
after times you kind of figure it out. Um, so yeah, that's our biggest thing, is basically just buddying with people. But as I say, we have resources of his communications. Um, we have uh, videos and pictures and all that sort of stuff and descriptions. But yeah, constant training with practitioners, whether it's behavioral support or whether it's speech therapists, exercise physiologists. He
Mm.
has a big team of allied health around him to help him.
Mm.
be as independent as possible, basically.
Yeah. With the support workers in this allied health team that you've got around, do they have the basics of Auslan, or is it something that they've got to learn as they go when they're working with Brandon?
Yeah, basically it's something they learn. We always are happy to help put people on courses to learn
Mm.
science, things like that,
Yeah,
if that's what they want. But basically, yeah, you'd be surprised how many people have worked 20 years in disability and never worked with a person who signs.
yeah,
So it's really interesting because over the years I've learned um, that who you think might be the best fit for somebody based on paper just isn't the case.
yeah,
Um, so, I suppose we started off with Brandon especially, but, we had a vision of the perfect support worker for him. And sometimes that is the case. But
mm.
his absolute best support worker is, she's in her late 60s, New Zealand lady,
Hmm.
um, and very calm, but, you know, she's not phased by anything. They have
Mm.
the best relationship. They sit on the couch at night and she massages his legs. And as soon as she comes through the door, he's just so calm for her.
Yeah,
Now, you wouldn't have said when we were looking for a team for Brandon, we want, an older lady or something like that. It's, young
mm.
males getting to do things.
Yeah,
So it's super different. It's not like a lot of the same person. It's
hmm,
a lot of different personalities, people, backgrounds, all that sort of stuff. And that's probably the biggest thing is the diversity,
yeah.
because everybody brings something different to the table.
What's Brandon's favourite thing to do then?
So his Brandon's favorite thing used to be swimming.
Yeah.
But when he left school, his anxiety got so bad.
Mm.
Getting out of the house was almost impossible. He would scream, throw things, spit, bite, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, we're not sure why. Just the transition of having I guess, a routine for so long and then not
Mm.
was
Yep.
probably. So getting him swimming in the last few years has been really, really difficult.
Hmm.
Occasionally, we get him to a beach and he goes in.
Yep.
But the favorite thing is driving. Like he will sit in the back of the car and drive for hours.
Yeah.
Um, there's not whole lot of stuff that takes Brandon's attention.
Yeah.
Driving and food are his three biggest things that he loves.
Yeah.
Um, so
Well, a computer gives communication, doesn't it, too?
oh, definitely, yeah.
Mm.
Brandon will listen to any sort of music,
Yeah.
but the bass. So if he's listening to it near a speaker, he'll put his ear or his hand on the speaker and listen for the vibrations. If
Oh,
he's in the car, I'll just try and get you to turn it up to like 100. Um, it's
that's
just
awesome.
yeah.
Andrew, with everything you've learned, and, obviously I don't know what age you are, but you sound relatively young to me. What are the takeaways? What's the advice you could give to anyone, any age, about people and communication? And it's for me, obviously, I'm passionate about it, and I know previous discussions you are. And it's not your age. I suppose, what I'm trying to say is any age, everyone has knowledge. What's the knowledge that you can give people? What's the takeaway?
Yeah, touching on something you said earlier was you don't know what's going on in somebody's life.
Mm.
Even if you are friends with them or close with them, you don't know what's going on inside somebody's head. Um, and I think it's so easy to judge based on the spoken word, um, what a person's thinking or feeling or
Mm.
saying. And I think a lot of communication is not spoken word. Tone of voice, body language, all that sort of stuff.
Mm.
Um, and I think be patient with people and try and give them the benefit of the doubt because at the end of the day, people lash out when they're angry or sad or even just tired. Um, you know, People withdraw, things like that.
Mm.
But I think understanding someone is the key to communication and compassion and all that sort of stuff is the key to understanding what someone's trying to get across to you because it's not always just what they say, you know.
Yeah, that's the best takeaway you could have given, isn't it?
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Thank you. Andrew, how can people get in touch with you to find out more about Helping Hands? So you do supported independent living, you do support work, you do a bit of support coordination. How can people find out and meet with you?
Not a problem. So you can jump on our website, which is www.helpinghandsinc.org.au. It's currently being redone. So
Mhm.
if you look in a few weeks, it might look slightly different. So it's still the same website. Or you can call us on 1300 11 13 11. And we have a small office here. We only have four staff in the office. So typically, if you're phoning us, you'll get the same person generally over again. So yeah, it's jump on our Facebook or Instagram and message the page.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of people phone up just for advice. Obviously we do support coordination, but
Mm.
we are super passionate about access NDIS, which obviously is quite difficult
Mhm.
for some, especially if they don't have support in their life who don't have a disability themselves. So we do like to help people for free to whether it's getting on the NDIS, whether it's early intervention, things like that, just advice or looking for some supports and they don't have support coordination.
Mm.
Especially if it's in this area, we have contacts. So we're always happy just to have a chat and see if we can help, no matter how big or little the problem is.
Thanks, Andrew. And seriously, I think anyone needs to go and have a chat with you because to me, I find it very inspiring the way you've worked out systems and processes that you and your wife and your kids can include Brandon still in your life, that he is the big brother, that he is the son, even when he throws a temper tantrum, and all kids have their temper tantrums. It happens. And, well done. And this is another episode of the Digital Access Show. And again, I am very honoured to have Andrew on. So if you like what we do, if you want to find out more, please, we're on dasat.com.au as our website. Like, subscribe, review. And if you want to meet Andrew, helpinghandsinc.org.au. See you next time.